Welcome into this Thursday edition of First Take, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us with Skip Bayless here in Bristol. I'm Molly Karam. Stephen A. joins us from Pittsburgh. Gentlemen, what's the good word?
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Good.
So, I understand you are in Pittsburgh to interview the guy who might be the best coach in all of pro football, Mike Tomlin. Is this correct?
Well, he's one of the best. He's one of the best. That's why I'm here. I'm looking forward to that conversation. You know how much I love this man, so I'm looking forward to that.
We know how much you love your Steelers, too. It should be a fun day for you.
We are looking forward to seeing it, too. A very connected man over there, Mr. Smith. All right, we kick things off in Dallas, where Jerry Jones defends the sound you just heard, Greg Hardy's guns a-blazing quote in his comments on Tom Brady and his wife. Jones said, quote, "Well, you're not allowed to have guns on the football field. We all know that's just a way of expressing yourself. I hope his guns are a-blazing." He continued, saying, "When I saw him marry Gisele Bundchen, Tom went up in my eyes 100%. She's very, very attractive, and it shows what an outstanding individual Tom is." Stephen A., do you have a problem? You're going to go first? Okay.
Yeah, let me go on this one.
Yeah.
Is that all right, Stephen A., if I talk about my owner of my Dallas Cowboys, the team I grew up
with that jacket you've got on, it's okay if you do anything.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Look, I cannot defend my owner of my Cowboys any more than I would even think about trying to defend the man that he plunged with, took a risk on, Greg Hardy. Jerry Jones, Stephen A. Smith, is what he is and what he has not been. For a long time, Jerry Jones has not been a lot of things that I don't love. And let's just quickly look at his background. Jerry Jones was a starting guard at the University of Arkansas for a team that won the national championship in 1964. He proceeded to marry his longtime and still wife, obviously, Jean, who was a former Miss Arkansas USA. And then Jerry proceeded to leave college football, and instead of trying to become a coach, he went out and tried to get rich quick in the oil fields. He went dead broke, and then he got rich quick. And Jerry Jones, as many people in Dallas have long known, no choir boy, never really pretended to be a choir boy. Enjoys, as he calls it, honky-tonking. He likes to go to the clubs, go out, have a good time after hours. All well and good. But Jerry Jones, the guy I've written several books about and with, has always been drawn to high-risk players, talented players, but troubled players. Because Jerry Jones identifies with those players, and I think in a very deep, connected way, he relates to those players. He roots for those players. He wants to ultimately try to win with those players just the way he would plunge in the oil field. He's hit some dry holes with the Terrell Owens, Backman Jones, Tank Johnson. And he's hit some gushers, as he did early on in his ownership career, as you recall, with the Charles Haley. The Haley trade that Jerry pulled off jump-started that football team to 3 Super Bowl championships in 4 years, and I thought they should have won 4. That's a whole nother story. But back to this one. So this year, as you well know, he has plunged and plunged and plunged again, has Jerry Jones. He plunged for Randy Gregory in the draft, Lyle Collins after the draft, and obviously in signing a Greg Hardy. And once he plunges with these kind of players, Stephen A. Smith, he will defend them to a fault. He will sound like on his radio show that he's laughing off the ill-timed, out-of-bounds comments that Greg Hardy made in his first Cowboy interview that you and I went back and forth on yesterday and roundly condemned. He will laugh those off. He will try to defend even Greg Hardy for what he did or didn't do in North Carolina as it pertained to domestic violence, because Jerry would be the first to tell you, well, he never was ultimately convicted, so I'm with him. I'm for him, because if Greg Hardy says, I didn't do what she accused me of doing, Jerry Jones will defend Greg Hardy, because that's the way he's built. Once he takes the risk and the plunge on a player, he will have that player's back. I don't love it. I do love the fact, as I've told you the last 2 years, that Jerry Jones has gone from trying to build an entertainment team, a team that's just pure box office, that has winning as a second priority and entertainment as a first priority, to plunging to try to close the deal to win a Super Bowl that I thought they had an outside chance of winning last year, except for one bad call in Green Bay. I don't want to get started on that. But my point to you is, this is the Jerry Jones who is going for the throat, trying to win. So, yes, he is going to a fault, defend Greg Hardy.
Well, with all the points that you made, while I respect where you're coming from, Skip Bayless, that happens to be secondary to the point that I'm going to bring up, which is this. Does not Jerry Jones, an owner in the National Football League, in the aftermath of Greg Hardy, Ray Rice, and others, have an obligation, dare I say, to express and elocute and articulate a level of sensitivity so this PC world that we're living in isn't in a position to accuse him of, dare I say, being insensitive?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what this comes down to. I'm certainly, you know, they certainly won't hesitate to excoriate others who misuse words. Okay, so why should Jerry Jones get a pass? The fact of the matter is that I don't have a problem with what Jerry Jones said from a football-related perspective, along with considering geography. And what I mean by that is we're talking about Texas here, okay? And we all know what Texas is known for. I mean, the Westerns and, you know, the list goes on and on. John Wayne and everything else. Not to say I don't know where John Wayne was born and raised, but I'm just saying California, when you think about characters like that, when you think about cowboys, you do think about guns blazing and things of that nature. So I found absolutely positively nothing offensive about what Jerry Jones said, but that's just me. That may be just you. The vast majority of Americans, particularly in this day and age, and specifically the women's, women's rights activists and beyond, and Molly can speak to all of that, may take it differently, as well as it is their right to do so. And it's heightened the level of sensitivity for all of us, where people like myself, you and others, our level of sensitivity is heightened, and whereas we once thought there was absolutely nothing wrong with something, now we look at it differently. Because of the times that we're living in, because of the actions that we see by some of these professional athletes, because of the behavior we've seen some of them in pro sports as well as college engage in, maybe there indeed does need to be a heightened level of sensitivity. Well, if that's the case for us, although he is 71 years of age and a billionaire, he is an owner in the National Football League. Therefore, he's assigned to protect the shield, the brand, and its reputation just as much as anybody else. So when I look at it from that perspective, and I heard those comments, I was wondering what kind of backlash he was going to get from it. Having said all of that, let's get back to the football part of all of this. In the end, he's incredibly happy to have Greg Hardy because he recognizes that in the first 4 games of the season, they've only got 6 sacks. And 3 of them came last week. That means over the course of the first 3 games, the Dallas Cowboys only had 3 sacks. And when you realize the reason that Randy Gregory was drafted and Greg Hardy ultimately was acquired, it's to address those very concerns, because if it was not a concern last year, they very well would have ended up in the NFC Championship game instead of Green Bay against Seattle, because we all know that on one leg, Aaron Rodgers was somebody that was barely touched by the Dallas Cowboys defense. So obviously, he's thinking about winning. He's thinking about getting it done. And remember, because he is 71 and climbing up there in age, I think scheduled to turn 72 around February, Skip, he believes time might be running out.
I agree.
He's alluded to this in the past. So to me, considering the money, the investment that he made in 1989 in purchasing the Dallas Cowboys, the hype machine that he is, and what he has elevated them to in terms of the pantheon of American sports or whatever, he's taken it to another level from Tex Schramm and those boys. The difference between them and him is the Super Bowls. Now, he's had 3 with Irvin, Emmett, and Troy Aikman, but the reality is that he hasn't had one in the last 20 years.
Nope.
And you know this better than me. A lot of people, right or wrong, and I'm not saying it's right because he's the owner and he cut those checks, Skip, and they could not have done what they did without him. But you got a lot of people out there who believe it was a product of Jimmy Johnson and what he did. Barry Switzer ultimately winning that 3rd Super Bowl was a product of Jimmy Johnson and what he built. And Jerry Jones feels like he did not get his just due credit-wise, and he's hell-bent on capturing it. So he's going to do whatever it takes to try and win, and if that means being insensitive in this day and age, I think Jerry Jones says to hell with it. So be it, because I'm trying to capture Super Bowl. What they going to do to me? That's exactly how I think he's thinking.
Ironically, I wrote a book called Hellbent that gave Jerry more credit than most people have given him, especially Jimmy Johnson, to your point. Now, to your original point, you raise an interesting one. How will Roger Goodell view these comments in this support of Greg Hardy by the owner, Jerry Jones? Is it so out of bounds that Roger Goodell would think he had to punish Jerry in some way, fine him, suspend him? I don't know. I'm going to the nth degree here.
I'm not thinking about Roger Goodell, because essentially that's one of your bosses, number one. And number two, he might just need to watch his words just a little bit. That's what Roger Goodell would say to him. What I'm interested in is that we live in a PC world, and there are a lot of women activist groups that are out there, you know, activists against domestic violence, and we applaud their efforts, make no mistake about it. But where are they? Because if you're in an uproar over what other folks say, why should a 71-year-old billionaire owner of the Dallas Cowboys get away with it? You speak up about everybody else. Where are you on this? It's just a question.
And I have no good answer or response to it, because, as I told you, that's just Jerry. Take him or leave him. And a lot of people will probably leave it. A lot of Cowboy diehards will say, hey, just tell me I have a better chance to win this coming Sunday against the New England Patriots.
And I'm not saying we're wrong for being that way. I'm simply saying if folks with other people would be in an uproar speaking out against it, why be quiet about the billionaire owner of the Cowboys? I'm just saying fair is fair. I'm not asking anybody to cast aspersions on Jerry Jones, because I took it in the manner that he said it, and I have no problem with it. But others who might, all right, who live in this, who condone this PC world where everything has to be said precisely, properly, and all of this other stuff, and you can't breathe wrong, for crying out loud. I'm saying, where are you? If you got something to say before, how come you're silent now? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
You
know, is it possible that Jerry has reached that status where a lot of people, even those people who could be outraged potentially by this, would you say, that's just Jerry Jones? I don't know.
It's absolutely possible. It's also possible that because he's a billionaire and there's little to nothing that you can do about it, you're saying to yourself, why bother? Because what you gonna do? What, you gonna fire him? You gonna get rid of him? What Roger gonna do? What Roger Goodell gonna do? Gonna fine him $1 million? I'm sorry, to Jerry Jones, that's a penny here. Okay. By the way, I'll write it off. Send it to your favorite charity. It don't mean anything to him. He's fine.
Now, what would mean something to Jerry is if you told him he was suspended and could not attend Sunday's game against the Patriots.
Please,
well, I'm just telling you, he lives for this. This is everything.
You do something like that to Jerry Jones over this. Jerry, I wouldn't blame Jerry Jones for trying to get Roger Goodell fired for something that idiotic. There's no reason on earth that he should miss a game over something like that. I'm just talking about, let's make sure that the level of sensitivity is consistent. Let's not arbitrarily exercise it against folks who, dare I say, are less fortunate than Jerry Jones.
But I want to be very, very precise with what I'm saying. I am not proud of what Jerry said in defense of Greg Hardy as a lifetime Cowboy fan.
Nobody
I'm not
is
proud.
Nobody is, and nobody should be. But in terms of the terminology in Texas, that's how a lot of people talk. And we have to take that into consideration. Cowboys are synonymous with being gunslingers. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's not appropriate, but damn it, you shouldn't have brought them to the Cowboys.
Yeah,
okay?
I guess so.
I mean, that's
I lived
what they
in
do.
Texas for a long time. I can tell you that a lot of people think the same way in a lot of other states, too. So it's not just Texas. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm just talking about Texas.
All right.
All I know is you don't need to give the Patriots extra motivation for Psycho Tom to come out, and I think they just did that for your Cowboys. So all
I think
eyes
you're right about that,
will be on that one. Patriots, Cowboys, and Dallas, and of course we'll be watching Brady and Hardy very closely. Moving